Hi, it's Jordantine1, and this is part 1 of my tutorial for how to make this really sweet Loomigurumi Dolphin. So the one I'm doing in the tutorial is actually the blue one here, and the gray one was the first one that I had done. And you can see I gave little eyelashes to make this one a girl. So I think it turns out really cute. I have them standing up on their fins, and sometimes they want to stand up and sometimes they don't. I think especially on this desk they tend to want to like slide down. So if they were laying flat, this is what it would look like. You can see their tail fin in the back, and I think that it turns out really cute, and it's pretty large. It measures about 8 inches in length. To make your dolphin, you're going to need a hook of some sort, so I have the Rainbow Loom metal hook, but you can use a crochet hook or whatever you have on hand. You're going to need something for the stuffing, so I'm using polyfil, and I'm going to be using a twist tie to help me get my magic ring started, or if you happen to have the Loomiloom, you can use that. You would need to have the one that has the 4 fins. So both of those tools are optional, but I do find them very helpful. You're going to need a few clips or stitch markers. I definitely used the stitch markers and found them helpful when attaching the body parts. And then for the eyes, I'm using these 9mm safety eyes. They're just all black. But you can use beads or bands or buttons, or you could get the wiggle eyes. They look really cute too. As far as my band counts, and these are going to be the counts for the entire dolphin, so parts 1 and 2, I used 849 blue, and of course you can use gray, or I think it would look even cute with pink or purple and the white belly. I used 137 white, and then 2 black if you want to make the smile, and then you would need an additional 2 black if you wanted to make the eyelashes. So anywhere from 2 to 4 black bands. I'm going to start by making a magic ring of 4, so for that I have 5 rubber bands. So if you have your twist tie, you just want to put that right next to your hook. You're going to take your first band and you want to triple this. So it just goes on, twist, and back on, so that will give you your 3 loops. And then you're going to take your twist tie, pull it up, and bend it in half. So that's just going to keep those 3 loops together and give you something to grab onto. So if you didn't have that, you could just use your fingers and pinch those 3 loops. So you're going to pull through your bands one at a time, and then one pulls through the other. So that's 1, back through from the front, go through all 3 loops, 1 through the other 2, that was 2, 3, and 4. Then you can remove your twist tie. You want to use your clip or your stitch marker, place it on the band that's around your hook, and then you just want to take a second and try and spread these out around the circle. Since we only have a magic ring of 4, definitely you're going to notice they're going to try and go to one side more than the other. So just do your best to try and even those out. So if you count your stitches, and that's this little sideways V on the outside edge of your magic ring, you should have 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, and number 4, or whatever the last one in your row, is always going to be the one that's on your hook. You'll need 7 bands for row 2. We're doing 2 increases, a single, and an increase. So you're going under your first stitch. Now it may be a little bit stretched out just because we have a smaller magic ring, so you might have to go over a little bit further. You're going under both loops from front to back. We're starting with an increase. So what that is 2 bands in the same stitch. So pull through, you'll have your 3 loops, 1 through the other 2, back through that same stitch for your second. The next stitch, we have an increase again. So that's 1, back through the same for that increase. The next stitch you have just one. And then where the clip is, we're doing an increase. I'm going to move my clip. And now if you count your stitches, we should have increased to 7. Let me just spread that out there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7 is where the clip is. In row 3 you'll need 10 bands, so we have a single, 3 increases, and 3 singles. So we're starting with a single, and then in the next 3 stitches we're doing increases. And if you feel like you're having a hard time to see your stitches, you can always just use your fingers and sort of spread this apart to get a better view. So that was our first increase. Second increase. And third. And then we have 3 singles. Just going to move that clip. In row 4 you'll need 11 bands. It's 3 singles, an increase, and then 6 singles. So we're doing our 3 singles. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And now we should be along the side here. We're doing an increase. And then we're going to do 6 singles. So we're just working our way back along the opposite side here. In row 5 you need 15 bands, and we're doing 4 more increases. So we're starting with 2 singles. So that's 1, 2. Then we're going to do 3 increases, trying to get this one side to flare out a bunch more than the other. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And you'll definitely notice it sticking out more on that side now. Then we're going to do 3 singles again. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Then we're doing an increase. And then finally 2 singles. So this is our last row, and then we've completed doing the back fin. I'm starting with a magic ring of 4, so I have my 5 rubber bands. So again, if you have the twist tie, just put it right next to your hook. And you're tripling the first band, so twist and loop it back on twice. Bend this in half, and then there's 4 bands they're going to pull through one at a time. So that was 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then once again, just want to add your clip and then space these out around the circle. In row 2 you'll need 6 bands, so it's increase 1, increase 1. So we're doing an increase in the first stitch, and again it might be a little bit farther over since we have this smaller magic ring. So that's 1, back through the same, and then a single in the next, increase in the third, and then a single in the last. You'll need 7 bands for row 3. We're doing an increase and 5 singles. So our first stitch is an increase. And then the remaining 5 are singles. So you'll see this pattern start to form where we're doing increases just on that one side to make the shape that we want. Last one. In row 4 you'll need 8 bands. It's an increase and 6 singles. So we have the increase to start, and you'll definitely notice that it's going to bend where you're doing that increase. We want it to have sort of that flat shape. And then the 6 singles. Just going to move my clip. You'll need 9 bands for row 5, and this time it's an increase and then 7 singles. So here's my increase. And then the rest are singles. So it should start looking like a flipper. Has that slant on the one side. In row 6 you'll need 10 bands. It's an increase and then 8 singles. So starting with our increase, should be lining up with all the other increases from the previous rows. And then this time we have 8 singles. So we're just about done. last two. In row 7, we're doing an increase and 9 singles. So once again we have our increase. This is actually our last row of the pattern. And then we have 9 singles. So it's going to be a little bit different for the both flippers. Up until this row they're made the exact same. But in the last row the band count's going to be a little bit different just because I want the flippers to angle. In row 8R, and I'm calling that because I want this to be the right flipper, what we're going to do is 6 additional single crochet. So basically what we're doing is just doing 6 singles, and it's not obviously going to go the whole way around as a complete row, but I'm just building up this one side so when we attach it to the body it's going to angle correctly, as I was saying previously. And then you'll see when we do the left it's going to have a different count. So we've gone 6, it's taken us to the one side, and I'm just going to take off my clip and add that to the band on my hook. Now that we've done one flipper, what you need to do is go back and make the second one. So I'm not going to film this, but I will add the time to go back to if you need to follow the steps once again. Now the very last row is going to be slightly different, so I will show you that. In row 8L for the left flipper, you're going to use 11 singles. So we just have our 11 single crochets. This is going to move us all the way around to the other side. Because if you didn't do this, when you try to attach it, it's going to angle the wrong way. So for the other flipper, we stopped about halfway. And for this one, we're going to go all the way around. Just move that clip. I'm starting with a magic ring of 4, so I have my 5 rubber bands. So again, if you have the twist tie, just put it right next to your hook. And you're tripling the first band, so twist and loop it back on twice. Bend this in half. And then there's 4 bands they're going to pull through one at a time. So that was 1. 2. 3. And 4. And then once again, just want to add your clip and then space these out around the circle. In row 2 you'll need 8 bands, and we're doing an increase in every stitch. So in the first stitch here we have an increase, and we're actually doing an increase in every single one. So we're just trying to widen this out just a little bit. I don't actually want it to get too wide since it's the little nose section. And then where my clip is my last increase. You'll need 8 bands each for rows 3 and 4, and it's just one single crochet into each stitch. So since it's pretty straightforward, I'm just going to go ahead and let you do those 2 rows on your own. So you can pause the video here and do that now. You'll need 14 bands for row 5, and it's 4 increases and a single, and then 2 increases and another single. So we're beginning in the very first stitch with an increase. So that's 1, 2, and we're going to do a total of 4 of those. So here's our second increase, next stitch, we have our third increase, and then next one over, here's our fourth. So that's what's going to actually be the top of the face. Then we have one single. Now we'll do 2 more increases. So there's 1, 2, and then where your clip is in our last stitch, we have a single. So it's definitely going to start to widen out here. And you can see if you open up the stitches how it's looking. In row 6 we're going to start to add some white, and that's going to be for the underside of the dolphin. So we're actually going to do 5 increases in this row. You're going to need 14 blue and 5 white. So I'm not going to say the pattern every time verbally because it just is going to get too time consuming, but you can see I'll always have the pattern laid out. And I also have it before each section in written form. So we're starting with a single. Again, this is across the top of the face. We're going to do an increase. So it's basically starting out with an every other increase pattern. Next one I have a single, then an increase, and again a single, and then an increase. So this is actually our last blue increase. And now we have 3 blue, so it's 1 in each. And now we're coming around to the underside. That one just slid right off my hook. So we're going to do an increase, but we're switching to the white. So you are going to pull through everything on your hook, get the other end back on, so you'll just have the 2 white and 1 through the other. And then I'm going through that same stitch for an increase. Next stitch is a single, and then next stitch we have an increase. So this is our last white for this row. And we have 2 stitches left here. Again, I'm going to do a slip stitch, so pull through everything on your hook. Now this time it's just the 2 blue, 1 through the other, and then in your last stitch here we have a single. In row 7, you'll need 17 blue and 4 white. So we're starting with 3 singles. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then we have an increase. And then we're going to do 2 singles. We have our next increase. And then we have 5 more blue singles. And that's going to move us down around till we meet up with the white again. So that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that was a blue band going under a blue stitch. Now, we did a slip stitch in the previous row, which creates this little, what I call a false stitch. You can see it's more vertical than horizontal. That is not the true stitch, it's the next one over. So you're going to push through that. We are doing a slip stitch. We're changing to white here. So pull through everything on your hook and one through the other. So that was the first out of 4 of our whites. So here's 2, 3, and 4. And now I have 1 white stitch left, but I am switching to blue. So again, do your slip stitch, and then again, this was a slip stitch in the previous row. Ignore this first little blue. It's this next part over, and we have the 2 blue stitches. Here's the last one where your clip is. In row 8, you'll need 16 blue and 5 white. So we're starting out with 13 singles in blue. So I do just have them all in one pile. So let me count those out with you. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So you should have 1 blue stitch left. That's going to start the white, and we are doing 5 white this row. So do your slip stitch. Again, previous row was a slip stitch, so ignore this first little part. Here's 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one is going under the last white stitch with a white band. Again, slip stitch in the previous row, so ignore the first. And that should leave you with 3 blue. So we're doing a slip stitch, and then the last 2. So you're definitely going to notice the pattern with the white. We're going to be doing 5s and 6s, and we're going to be shifting. So sometimes you're going under the same color band and stitch, and sometimes you're not. In row 9, we're doing 2 more increases. So you're going to need 19 blue and 4 white. So we have 3 singles. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And now we're doing an increase. And then in between the increases here we have 2 singles. Then your next increase. And now we're going to do 6 singles. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6 is going under a blue stitch with a blue band. Ignore the first little white here, that's the slip stitch. We're going to do a slip stitch. So we have 4 white, that was 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we have 1 white stitch, but we're switching to blue. Do your slip stitch. So that was the first out of 4 of your blue. Ignore the first little blue here. And we're just doing it all the way back to the clip here. For row 10, you'll need 18 blue and 5 white. So we're starting with 14 of your blue. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Next, you're going under the last blue stitch with a white band. Do your slip stitch. We're doing 5. Again, I'm not going to point this out every time, but just remember to ignore the first when you have a slip stitch in the previous row. So that's 2, 3, 4, and the last white goes under a white stitch for number 5. Now that leaves us with 4 blue. So don't forget about your slip stitch there. Doing a slip stitch. That was 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll need 20 blue and 4 white for row 11. So we're starting out with our 4 singles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in that 5th stitch we're having our one and only increase. And then we have 9 blue singles. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the ninth one is going under a blue stitch with a blue band. And then we're going to do 4 whites. Your slip stitch, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have a white stitch. We're picking up a blue band. Do your slip stitch. And then that's going to leave you with 4 additional blue. So hopefully everyone is getting the hang of this and you're not having any issues with your slip stitches. Just trying to keep that white on the bottom. That's why we have to do different shifting within each row. In row 12, you'll need 19 blue and 5 white. So we're starting with 14 blue. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now I have a blue stitch, but I'm switching to white. Do the slip stitch. We're doing 5 whites, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, last white stitch gets a white band, and now I am switching to the blue, so slip stitch. It's going to be 5 blue, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Whoops, just lost my clip. In row 13, you'll need 20 blue and 4 white. So we have 14 blue. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and the last blue under a blue stitch. Now we're switching to white. We have just 4 this row. Do your slip stitch, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Last white stitch starts blue. Slip stitch. We're going to do 6 blue this time, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In row 14, you'll need 19 blue and 5 white. So in this row, we're starting with 13 blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. You'll have 1 blue left. It's going to start our first white. So that's 1 out of 5. So 2, 3, 4, and last white is lining up this time under a white. And now we have 6 blue. Do your slip stitch, and then that'll take you back to the start. That's my last one. You'll need 20 blue and 4 white for row 15. So again, I'm starting with 13 blue. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Last one lines up with blue. And now I'm switching to white. This time we have 4. Do your slip stitch. There's 2, 3, 4. Now we have a white stitch. We're switching to blue. Do your slip stitch. And that leaves us with 6 more blue. And again, just back to your clip. So I think after this I'm going to add the smile and the eyes just before this grows too large. The next thing I'll do is to add the mouth and the eyes. So I have 2 black bands and a C-clip for the mouth, And then I have these 9mm black safety eyes. If you didn't have these, you could use rubber bands or beads or buttons, and of course you can use different size or color safety eyes as well. So I'll start with the mouth here. What I'm going to do is go to the right side here, and I'm going to go right to about where the nose starts. I'm going to just push through. I'm going to skip about 2 holes, push out the other side, and then I'm going to take the first band, pull it all the way through, and get the other end back on my hook. I'm going to take my second black band, I'm going to pull through everything, get the other end back on, and now you could make this into a slip knot, but I'm not going to do that because I think that's going to pull this too tightly. So instead, I'm just going to use a clip to tie it off. So I have a C-clip, and they hold the bands pretty tightly. And what that's going to do is just give me a little bit more slack so the smile can be more relaxed. So the clip is on the outside, but we want to work it around so it's on the inside. So I'm just going to push it through, and I'm just going to shift these bands around. Just slide this completely around. And then you can do some adjusting. If you want it to look more open, you can separate the bands, or if you want it to look more closed, you can just put them right on top of one another. And then as far as the eyes go, what you would do is just see how you want them positioned. With the safety eyes, it's really easy. You just stick them through the hole. So I think somewhere maybe right around here. And then just try and match that on the other side. So try and keep it evenly spaced. And then you would just use the backs and secure that tightly. Now I'm also going to add some stuffing. I'm not going to make it too full, but while I still have nice access here to the middle, just want to make sure that I get some stuffing worked up into the nose section. I know we added those black bands for the mouth, so that's a little bit in the way. You don't want to overstuff it so you see it coming through the stitches, but you definitely want to have it so it's nice and filled out. So we'll have plenty more opportunity to add more stuffing as we build this. As I said, I'm not going to make it too full because then I have to fight it with my stitches when I'm trying to form this. Now, even though I'm not making eyelashes on my blue dolphin, since I did show them on the gray dolphin, I just wanted to show you how I made them. So I'll just show you the one. So what I'm going to do is just take out my eye here, and I'm going to go from the back side. So this is where the eye was. I'm going to go just to one of the blue bands right above it, and I'll just take one black band, pull through, get the other end back on, and then pull one through the other. So you want to make that relatively tight, and then I can just stick my eye back in here. I'm going to make this even tighter. And then what I'm going to do is just take a pair of scissors and just trim the end off. You can make them as long as you want. And it's quite simple, and there you have your eyelash. In row 16, you'll need 19 blue and 5 white. So this time we're starting with 12 blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we have one more blue stitch. We're switching to white. Do your slip stitch. So that was the first white out of 5. 2, 3, 4. Last white under a white. And that leaves us with 7 blue. So do your slip stitch. And then back to the start. So if you do have your stuffing in, you definitely need to try and keep it out of the way. For row 17, you'll need 20 blue and 4 white. We're starting with 12 blues. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and number 12 will line up with your blue. Now we have 4 white, slip stitch, 2, 3, 4. We have a white, switching to blue, slip stitch. That was the first one out of 8. So we have 7 left to get us back to the start. So I think the pattern is fairly easy. The hardest part is the slip stitches and just the fact that each row is just a little bit different for us having to adjust the colors so that they line up correctly. You'll need 18 blue and 5 white for row 18. So we're starting with 1 single, and then we're going to have our first decrease. So a decrease is when you put 2 stitches together. So what you're going to do is skip your first stitch, go into your next stitch over. We're just working the 2 outer loops, so grab that 1 outer loop, pull back towards yourself, and then you can see in that stitch that we skipped, you're going through that first outer loop as well. So the bands kind of make like an X on your hook. You're going to take your rubber band and pull through and do like a single crochet. Then we have 8 more singles. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it's started pouring rain here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we have a blue stitch, and we're going to switch to the white. Do your slip stitch. We have a total of 5. So here's 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one goes under a white. And then that's going to leave us with 8 of the blue. Slip stitch in the first. So I think fairly soon I'm going to add the flippers. We definitely want to add them before we start to close off the body too much, just so we have more room to work to attach them. So maybe within the next couple rows I'll do that. Here's the last one. In row 19, you'll need 19 blue and 4 white. So in this row, we're starting with 10 singles of the blue. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then this 10th one does line up. And then we have 4 white. So do your slip stitch. 2, 3, and 4. Wow, it sounds like it's flooding out there. Now we have a white stitch with a blue. So that's the first one out of 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now your 8th one is going to be the stitch right before your clip. And now we do have a decrease, and even though we only have 1 stitch left, we're going to go just 1 past where our clip is. So the decrease just happened to fall in between the rows. So I'm skipping this one that's right next to my hook, going to the next one over, outer loop, pull slightly back, and then straight through that first outer loop. So this has now become our last stitch. In row 20, you'll need 17 blue and 5 white. So we're starting with 8 singles this time. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we have a blue stitch with a white band. Do your slip stitch. This is a row that has 5 whites. So that's 2, 3, 4, and the last white one goes under a white stitch, and then that's going to leave us with 9 blue. Slip stitch, and then 1 in each back to the start. So we're really making some progress here. You're more than halfway done with the body section, so that's good. Here's the last one. The next thing we're going to do is to attach the flippers before the body gets too long and too narrow. So you're going to need 12 blue bands for that, and I do have 5 stitch markers that I'm going to use. And if you don't have stitch markers, you can use clips. Now, I know attaching the extra limbs and body parts usually tends to be the hardest or the most frustrating part, so I'm going to try to make this as easy as I can. So I'm starting with the left flipper here, and that's the one that we did the 11 single crochets on. So what I'm going to do is start here on the right. You can see that these stitches kind of, let me just get this in focus. The stitches kind of want to go together there, and usually when I go through the 2 sets of stitches I go under both loops, but since this one's on the end and it kind of wants to fold in, what I'm going to do is just go through the inner loop of each of those stitches. I'm going to take my first band and pull through, and then I'm going to take my stitch marker and just attach it to the one end. So if you had a clip, you would use that there, and all that's going to do is prevent this from pulling all the way through. And then I'm going to go to the next ones over. This time I am going under both loops of each stitch, pull through, and then again just adding the stitch marker. Next. So this one's number 3. I'm going to do a total of 5. So here's number 4. And then with this last one, I'm going to go under the stitch. I do have this loose band, so I'm going to get that on. And I'm just going to hold that with my finger, and I'll go straight through the other side. So you're actually going to have the 2 stitches plus that loose band, and pull through everything. It's always a little bit harder to work through. So you're going to be left with 1 band, and that's going to be used to tie it off. So now we have these all through. Now I'm going to be working on the left side of the body, and where these white stitches are, I'm going to go to about the 4th one back, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to be working in this blue right above where the white is. So if you have stuffing in, you probably have a little bit in your face. I just want to make sure that you have that pushed all the way up, because you don't want to have to fight with the stuffing as you're doing this. So from the inside, I'm going to push out right around the 3rd or 4th one here. I'm going to take my flipper. Now I want this slanted part where you did the increases to be facing towards the back. So what I'm going to do is go grab the one side. I'm going to pull that through to the back. And now in the hole right above, I'm going to pick up the other side of that same band I can take out my stitch marker, pull through to the back. So on the inside you should have 2 bands. You're going to pull one through the other. So make sure you're leaving that one on your hook. Now what I'm going to do is go to the next opening over. I'm going to push out, and I'm going to grab the next loop, pull through to the back, and then hopefully you can see I'm just going to push right out the next hole right above, grab the other end of that, get it on my hook, pull through to the back, and then if you look, you should have 3 bands on your hook, and one pulls through the other 2. Again, make sure you leave that one on, and I'm going to go to the next opening over, push out through, grabbing my next band, just going in, push out the next opening. Whoops, I can see it just went right off my hook. Let me get that right back on. Grab the other end of the same. I know that this part is definitely the most challenging, and there's no really simple way to do it, unfortunately. Pull through to the back. And again, I have 3 loops. One pulls through the other 2, leaving that on. We're almost getting down here to the end, so I'm going in the next opening, grab the loop, pull through, push out. Can get this one on, pull through, 3 loops, one through the other 2, and then here's my last one, push out, pull through, next hole up, grabbing the other end, pull through to the back, and one through the other 2. So now it should be pretty secure on here. You can see we have it attached. And what I'm going to do with this last band is I'm going to leave this one on my hook. Again, I'm going to push out through, and then I'm going to just grab right on the end here, go through 1 or 2 loops, and I will take my last band, pull that through to the back, push up, move that to the inside, and then I'm going to pull one through the other and make a really nice and tight slip knot. Now if you wanted to, just for added security, you could add an additional rubber band, and I think I will do that actually. So go through 1 or 2 loops on the inside and take an additional band and just make sure that this isn't going to come apart nice and tight. So hopefully everybody made it through that. If you personally have an easier way to attach limbs that you want to use, you can certainly do that. So what you would do is repeat that same process for the opposite side. I don't think I'm going to film that just because it's really time consuming, but just repeat that process. So you want to take your 5 bands, slide them through, match up your stitches. You should notice that on this right side that this upper side here is higher. So again, when you attach that, it should angle nice and downward. So this is the end of part 1, and I'm going to include the link so you can click on that to get to part 2 to finish making your dolphin. So you can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. and you can post pictures of what you've made on my Facebook page. I always love to see everybody's creations. And you can like and subscribe to those as well, so that way you can stay up to date when I have new tutorials available. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to post your comments and your pictures there too, and you can subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!